you can't think about the money. If you're a sideman or a musician and you want to be a sideman, okay, money is involved in that because it's work. But when you're a solo artist, you have to put the money aspect aside because you're gonna lose money and you're gonna make money.
NOY, this is so great to have you in our presence here. Thank you so much for joining us. You're like a trendsetter now. It really is kind of interesting, Oz, because how you play, you infuse all different styles, your sound, your intensity, your solo albums and what you've done. You really have created a niche that really presents you to the world of music. For that, we thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Tell me now, I want to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, was guitar your first instrument, and where did that start as far as music entering your life?
Well, I actually wanted to learn drums, and my mother actually even got me, was looking for a drum teacher for me, and I don't know how it started. I started to listen to the Beatles and Israeli pop.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of, you know, hitting pots and pans and stuff. I was about to start drum lessons, and then I had a friend of mine that was studying guitar, so I was like, yeah, just come to guitar lesson with me. And I went there. I don't think I had a good time or anything, but for some reason I stuck with it and I started studying guitar. It's kind of weird. Like, I don't remember going like, wow, this is great. I just remember going to the lesson and then go like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. I was 10 years old, so, you know.
What was the music scene like in Israel at the time?
Oh, it's a good question that I can't really answer because I was too young. There's specific kind of Israeli music that's influenced by, let's say, American and English rock, and also by kind of, I would say, Eastern European harmonies or melody. So it becomes something kind of unique that I really like. I kind of grew up on that stuff. I didn't really grow up on the Middle Eastern aspect of it, although it was always around me.
Yeah.
But it didn't really interest me much. I don't know, coming from, my family is from East Europe, so it wasn't in the house, you know what I mean? But it's always in the street. So the Middle Eastern part was more like underground at the time, and more like the rock, pop kind of Israeli stuff was the mainstream. So I grew up on that, really. And there was jazz already, not a lot, but there was some jazz going on already there.
So jazz was entering into your psyche at a certain point.
My brother brought a jazz record, and my big brother started bringing some jazz records home. I don't know why, but he did. So I started to listen to that stuff, and then I got kind of into that.
Do you remember what they were?
I don't remember exactly. Maybe Chick Corea and Gary Burton. I remember Crystal Silence, that
nice,
record.
Yeah.
And there was some Kid Jarrett record, I can remember. McLaughlin, maybe something Beyond, something that.
Good for you, man. So there was some.
I can't remember. You know, recently it just hit me really hard. The record that made the most impact on me as a kid, trying to play guitar and be like improviser or being like a virtuoso, was Friday Night in San Francisco, that trio with Paco de Lucia and McLaughlin and Al Di Meola.
Absolutely.
And recently I just got the record. I bought the CDs and I've been listening to it, and it's amazing still.
Isn't it fantastic playing?
It's incredible.
Well, that's a great recording
so
for sure.
I think that's one of the records that at the time when I was maybe 12, that made the biggest impact on me.
So you're taking some guitar lessons.
Yeah.
Did you start playing with other musicians at that time?
Yeah. I started to play pretty quick I had this little rock band with a bunch of kids. We were like, I was 12 or 13, and one of the guys opened a studio, and it was also kind of a singer-songwriter producer. So I started to do a recording session when I was really young, actually the age of 13, 14, I started to do a recording session. And actually a funny fact is when I was about 15, I used to do a recording session with Nir Z, his studio drummer.
He's a phenomenal drummer.
Because he's a little older than me and we're from the same city.
How fantastic.
Yeah.
Nir Z is a fantastic player. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so he was like, I think he was 18, I was 15 or something.
When did you realize that you wanted to do this professionally?
Never. I just do it. I'm still trying to get professional at it. No, you know, I don't know when I decided that there was never a decision. I think I just liked it. I think this decision came when I quit school. And that happened when there was a year where Chick Corea released a record with the Electric Band, that first Electric Band record, and then the same time, around the same era, Pat Metheny's Still Life Talking, that group record came out.
Yeah.
And that thing, those two records really kind of changed my life. I missed the Chick gig because I forgot why, but then Pat was playing in Israel, and I remember going to see the group, and I never heard anything like that. I was completely, and then I went home, I couldn't sleep all night, and then I stopped going to school after that. That was that.
Well, it's kind of interesting because what I want from these interviews, people that are watching it and listening, I want them to hear some of the albums that you were inspired by, for them to then go back. If they want to understand more about NOY, they gotta have to go back to the music that inspired you.
Those things really inspired me, but I don't know if you can connect that to the way I play today. But there's another record that really inspired me. Those are records that when you're a kid and you kind of suddenly hear it, it just blows your mind. Another record was Ellen Holdsworth, Metal Fatigue.
Fantastic.
But then I was pretty lucky because when I was living in Israel, I wanted to play like that. I wanted to play like Pat, I wanted to play like Holdsworth, I wanted to play like Scott Henderson was on that first Electric Band record, or Schofield. But that's what I wanted to do. And I went to a teacher. I'm not self-taught. I never went to university, but I'm not self-taught. I always had private teachers. So I went to this one teacher in Israel, and I called him, I remember I called him, I was like, I want to play fusion. And he goes like, okay, but you want to learn the basics of jazz. So he started to teach me that and get me more into, it was like more of a Berkeley kind of teacher, you know?
Okay, good.
I got more into Joe Pass and stuff like that. And then I was still into the whole modern jazz thing. And I tried to do it, but I realized that I'm kind of winging it. I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then there was another guy in Israel that just came back from New York. He's a bass player that actually used to study with Barry Harris, and then he used to be his bass player for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So he came back to Israel, and I heard about him, so I went to take a lesson with him, and he told me, okay, if you want to play all that modern stuff, you really want to learn which is now I understand the language of jazz, which is bebop.
Yeah.
So then I got heavily into bebop. So I was actually a Wes Montgomery clone for a bunch of years. I used to play with my thumb.
The same way Wes did, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know that Pat Metheny did the same thing when he growing up. He was
absolutely.
A lot of people did. So I was going through all that phase of like Wes Montgomery, Jim Hall, Kenny Burrell, Grant Green. So that was one aspect of it, but the other aspect of it was in the 80s. So I was really into the shredding stuff. So I also really liked the heavy metal stuff.
What a span of...
Yeah, so I remember my friends go like, you're out of your mind, you have to decide, you know? In one hand I had this like L5 Epiphone, the other hand I had a Charvel with like nines and like action that low, you know? So that went on for a while. And then at some point, I started to get out of that into blues because I've discovered Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jeff Beck and Eric Johnson. And that actually was the first thing that started to click everything for me because I was kind of heavily into bebop, which I still am. I love this stuff. Yeah. Not that I didn't listen to modern stuff, but I was studying that language, you know? And then at the same time, I started to play like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I tried. Yeah. And it was the same thing. I tried to play like that, but it was just not right. And then I started to kind of look into that and look at the interviews and stuff, and I realized, okay, you kind of, in order to do that, you have to learn the language of the blues. So then you go back to B.B. King, Freddie King, Albert King, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I'm not really a blues player, but at least I tried to learn the language. So my playing is basically a mix of bebop and blues.
When you think about it, I think that's why I say trendsetter, because I think you really have done the research in each of these areas.
As much as I could. But I still do.
It sounds like you're still doing it. So I mean, I think that's
that
constant learner part is a very important quality that's keeping you at the top of your game.
I try.
You're succeeding, just so you know. You're succeeding very well. What happens like there's a business side now. Now that you understand your instrument and you're working, you put out many solo albums.
Yeah.
There's a business side of how you have to kind of run the business. How do you handle the business side?
There's a couple of aspects to the business. One aspect is making a living, which means I live in New York. It's an expensive place. So I was never into only doing my own thing. I always like to play with other people and do other stuff. So you have to be able to do other work, meaning you have to read music, you have to be able to behave and be cool with other people and just do other gigs.
And freelance.
Freelance, yeah.
Cool.
So that's one aspect of the business.
Right.
So there's a whole book about that I'm sure somebody wrote, you know, but that's one part of it. Then the other part of it is my solo career. So solo career means solo records, recording the records, and then touring. I would say in terms of the sideman stuff, the more people see you as a solo artist, you get less sideman gigs.
Right,
because people kind of see you as this one thing, you know? But when you do get sideman gigs, they really appreciate you because they know that you're, you know, above the average. Well, so that happens.
You played, I mean, my gosh, I mean, when I look at the list of, you know, Chris Botti, Cyndi Lauper, Harry Belafonte, Mike Maneri, John Patitucci, Bill Evans, the Allman Brothers. There's so many people that you have worked with. That's pretty powerful that you have that wide a span.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff on my resume is like things that I did like once or twice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not like I mostly tour with my own band, although now I'm in the middle of a tour with this big pop thing, but I mostly do my own thing when I tour. But there are stuff when you're a sideman, especially in New York, there are all these calls that happens either for recordings or for being in a band, supporting a bunch of artists and stuff like that. And sometimes they just call me to, I used to go and play with the Allman Brothers because they used to call people to sit in all the time.
Yeah.
So that's a part of the story.
Well, you have the freelance side.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you have the solo recording side.
Yeah.
You got to, you know, put this all together. You got to hire the musicians. That takes skill and organizational skills to make that happen.
Yeah, but the first thing to make that happen is you have to have the music and the concept. So that's the first thing. So for me, the way it works is I think about the record first, like what am I going to do? And then I start writing it. And then my luck is that I have a gig in New York here, a steady gig in New York here, the bitter end. Yeah. Every Monday. I've done it for like since 2002, really.
Nice.
And then sometimes I'll play the 55 bar. So those are like the two main places. So when I'm in New York, I like to play. So what happened is I write my music and then I go and I play it for a while in the club just to kind of make it gel and see where it's going. And then once the music is there and the whole sound is there with the band, then I go and record.
Smart.
So it usually takes about 2 years between one record to the next, you know what I mean?
So you're working the material, you're getting to know the material, so when you finally hire the musicians that you want for that album.
Well, usually 80% of the musicians, 90% of the musicians are guys that already playing with me in New York. I've done records where even my last album that I just finished an album that's going to come out next year in I think February or March 2019. So Weckl played on some of it, Ferroni played on some of it, and Vinny Colaiuta played on some of it. Now I play with all those guys a bunch, so I knew what I'm getting, but they weren't in the weekly thing that I was doing.
Yeah.
But I did some gigs before that they played the music. You know, it's not that I just went in the studio cold. I never do that. And then the rest of the guys like Willie or John Patitucci or James Genius, we play here in New York, so we play the music. I don't believe in going in and just like counting it off and reading a chart. It doesn't work in my music, I don't know. So that's the part that, you know, the business part of say like organizing, a lot of times you just have to book stuff in advance.
So you can get the guys that you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that actually also is the same game when it comes up with tours, you know. These days it has to be booked way in advance. And you have to have the guys commit a while in advance.
So let's talk about the touring part of it now. Yeah. When you're on the road, and I've seen you on the road, met you on the road in different countries, you guys are touring. It's intense.
Yes.
But it's organized well. You're on the road doing it, and I'm sure there are challenges on the road.
Yes.
But what's that like setting up the tours?
Well, I don't set up the tours, so I can't set up a tour. So I have a booking agent that does Europe. And then I have a manager/booking agent that does US and Asia for me.
Beautiful.
But I still have to take care of a lot of stuff, meaning I don't have to take care of the actual tactics of moving from one place to the next.
The logistics,
The logistics, but I do have to make sure, I gotta give them the band, you know, like I have to make sure they commit. And then I do have to look at the schedule and see that it makes sense, because sometimes they can run you like crazy, and I don't know if it's healthy for anybody, you know. And it happens, you know. So you kind of have to be on top of it.
Yeah.
You know, and there is surprises sometimes, you know. Something I don't know.
Things happen.
Things happen, yeah. So you have to be on top of it, but it's actually really important that you'll be on top of it. But at the same time, I'm not the one that actually does the work. You know what I mean?
What motivates you? What motivates you to continue at this pace?
I don't know what else to do. What am I going to do? Watch TV? No, I really love doing it, you know, and the music really interests me. Like, it really interests me to create new stuff all the time, you know. I'm not interested in playing the same thing all the time, you know what I mean? Like, I can be on Broadway and playing the same
show for 8 years,
for 20 years, you know, but it's a good gig, it's good work, but it drives your brain and your musical inspiration.
Yeah, it's a very different kind of a mental state of mind.
Yeah,
in
it's
doing
very
Broadway.
challenging to do because you have to play exactly the same thing every night.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not against it because, you know, it's a good gig for money. If you can mix it with other stuff, then it's great. If that's all you do, then it's highly uncreative.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so I try to be creative.
But I think many of the musicians doing Broadway have other things that they're doing.
Yes.
So I think everyone's trying.
Especially these days, where when I moved to New York, Broadway gigs were for the, I don't want to say it, but the B-class players, you know. But then, because all the A guys were doing studio work and were doing tours, and now the studio work dried out. So everybody does in New York. Everybody does Broadway because that's kind of the studio gig now. That's like the main gig in the city if you want to have a steady gig, you know.
But touring is now another way of being able to have an income that can happen where people come to the shows. There's still the energy of the shows. So touring is still a healthy way to monetize our craft.
Absolutely.
I want to name certain artists, and I want you to just give me a short little, understanding of certain artists when I mentioned their name. Keith Carlock.
Oh, I love the guy. He's my man.
Will Lee.
He's like my soul brother. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, I play with him so much that it's like, and I never have to say anything to him.
Yeah.
Rarely. He's always there. He always plays the right stuff. He's just the greatest.
Dave Weckl.
I love Weckl. I think I played the best, in a way I played the best with Dave.
How's that?
I don't know, there's something about the way he plays which makes the most music out of my music. I don't know how to explain it. It's not that the other guys are not great, it's different. It's just that there's something about my connection playing with him that, I don't know, that somehow elevates my music a little.
He is a consummate musician for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Steve Lukather.
If there's anybody I want to be like when I grow up, it's Steve Lukather. But everybody want to be like Steve Lukather. He's like the iconic rock star that we all want to be, you know?
What a great guy.
Oh, he's the best.
How about Vinny Colaiuta?
The master of drums. He's like the greatest there is, you know? It's actually a real experience, like, to play with him.
Yeah.
It's really something different than anything else.
Yeah.
And I play with a lot of people, but playing with him is really special.
He really kind of lifts the game, right?
Not only that, it's kind of endless and effortless.
Yeah.
Like you can get anything out of him. And it's just so intense, but so great at the same time. You know, it's like, it's kind of challenging playing with him, but in a really good way. It's kind of, I wish I could be like that one day, you know? Like, I wish I could feel comfortable being in that, you know?
Last one, Chick Corea.
He's my hero. I never played live with him. It's a bummer. He never called me. He played on my record. Yeah. And I go to see him live, but I don't know. He's like my hero.
Where do you think your creativity comes from to write? Where's that come from?
I don't know where it's coming from, but I can say that the way I write has to do with, I don't just sit at home and write. I have to have concepts in my head, you know? So when I started my band, actually the way my band started, it didn't start in New York, it started in Israel, because what happened, I was playing in Israel, I was doing a lot of gigs, and I always did pop gigs and jazz gigs. I always did both.
Yeah.
So, and I was doing TV stuff and all that stuff. So at some point the jazz thing just dried out. So there was a bar in Tel Aviv and I wanted to keep playing. So I went to the guy and I was like, what about if I'll do like a kind of a blues trio there, you know? So I went, and what I did was I did this Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of instrumental stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got tired of that, and I just didn't get tired of it. I got bored from that. Then I started to bring like R&B tunes. So it was like Stevie Wonder, James Brown. So it was all instrumental. And it went on for a year, and throughout that year, at some point I got kind of bored from that too. So I thought to myself, what would happen, because I wasn't really getting called to do jazz gig, what would happen if I would just play all my jazz vocabulary over that stuff?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I've done with my band since. It's just kind of the concept, you know. I play jazz, but it's over contemporary grooves, you can say. Like, it's not always swinging, you know. There's some swinging, but not a lot. So that's how it started. So when I moved to New York, I wasn't really planning on being a solo artist or anything, but I wanted to kind of be noticed. Yeah. So I started to do that here. So then at some point, a good friend of mine, Mark Schulman, really great. No, he's a guitar player.
Oh, the guitar player.
He's a studio guitar player in New York. Really, really great guitar player here. He used to come and see my gigs. He goes like, "Man, you really have something special here. You should do a record." So at that point, I already started writing. I started to write because I had a trio, and I didn't want to only play covers, you know. So I started to write a little bit in Israel, and then I started to write here. So my writing basically comes from the need of having tunes to play with my band. And it kind of still is, because I don't just sit at home and write. If something comes up, I'll record it really quick. But it's usually, I go like, okay, I need to do a record, what's the concept? And then I start thinking about it. So when I was doing my first couple of solo records, the concept was just kind of what I was telling you. It was like I would take R&B grooves, and it wasn't so much blues groove, but more like R&B grooves and funk grooves, and write whatever I hear on them. And my vocabulary was pretty much jazz, the mix of bebop and blues and R&B and all that stuff. And then after the third or fourth solo album, after Schizophrenic, I decided that I wanted to go a little more blues. So then I started to look, okay, what kind of blues things I have. And I had a couple of things, but then I started to write for that. And then I started to think, okay, I want to write some rumbas. I want to write a blues in an odd time, maybe. I want to expand the harmony. So I was able to write 2 records on that kind of concept, you know? So that's how I write. Then the next record after that was, the last solo album I did was Who Gives a Funk? And that, I wasn't really planning on doing a record, but then I was just wanted to keep playing. So I called my friend Steve Wolf, you know, drummer?
Yes.
He's a great drummer.
Yes, great guy.
And organ, I used a couple of different organ players, and I just wanted to do like this kind of like soul funk thing. So we started to play some James Brown and some Johnny Guitar Watson over a summer, you know, every week. And suddenly I was like, wow, this has a vibe. Let me write in that kind of style. So then I wrote Who Gives a Funk, you know? So that's kind of how it works. So now the new record that I have coming out, it's the Boogaloo. I started to do this Boogaloo band, and it was the same thing. I was doing this, just playing gigs and bringing Boogaloo tunes, and I was like, wow, I kind of like this. So I wrote a record. It's actually going to be 2 records, because I end up having recorded rock music for 2 records. So it's kind of Boogaloo based, you know what I mean? So when I have a concept and I know what I'm going for, then I can write. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's how it works for me. It doesn't come from like, I don't know. I don't wake up in the middle of the night and hear Yesterday's in my head, you know what I mean? Or something like that.
But I love the fact that you really understand how you write, and you found your path, and you make it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You make it work.
Yeah, but I sometimes have to pretty squeeze myself, go like, okay, I have to make a record next year, so I have to write. Yeah. You know, and it's not that I sit for hours a day at home. I collect ideas all the time, and then I start to mess around with them and see what sticks. Yeah. And it takes me a long time to write. It doesn't come. Most tunes that I write, especially these days, can take sometimes a month.
Okay.
It's not that I sit on my ass for a month and just every day. It's just that it takes a while till. You know, sometimes you write something and you go like, wow, it sounds familiar, and then you realize that you already wrote it in some other tune. It happened more than once. So it's that kind of stuff, you know, especially when you make more now it's gonna be my 9th or 10th album, so you gotta try to mix it up, you know.
As we say, to reinvent ourselves.
Yes. I don't know how many times you can do that, but you know, you try the best you can.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. You know, you have many fans that are out there, and there will be many young musicians and very many dedicated musicians that are out there. In closing, what would you say to these young musicians that are out there that really kind of want to pursue maybe what you're doing? They play an instrument, they want to maybe put out their own solo albums, they want to freelance, they want to tour. What advice would you give them?
You can't think about the money. If you're a sideman or a musician and you want to be a sideman, okay, money is involved in that because it's work, blah, blah, blah. But when you're a solo artist, you have to put the money aspect aside because you're going to lose money and you're going to make money.
Yeah.
And when you lose money, you just lose money. That's it. And it happens on every level. On the highest level, some people do it because they want to get something going or get to the next level. So I think the most important thing about being a solo artist, except of the fact that you just want to do it and be your own, thing, is because money is important and there's not much of it these days in music, if at all. So you have to kind of get that out of the way and go like, okay, this is not where it's going to come from. At least maybe not in the beginning. And even later in life, maybe you have a period where you have to put some money in it or not make money to get to the next level, you know? In terms of artistically, I would say do whatever you hear and whatever you like. Because people will tell you a lot of things. This is not good. This is this, that. Don't listen to. Just listen to what, inside of you and what you think is right. Because that's really important. In terms of just being a musician, people say, "Oh, it's a hard life. It's not secure. It's not." But what is secure?
Yeah.
You can get fired from working in a bank tomorrow. You know what I mean? Yeah. At least when you play music, you do what you love every day. So. And it all again, it's like the thing is it comes down to money because that's what you do to make a living, Just don't think about that stuff. No, if you're really into what you're doing and you like it, everything will fall into place,
I think that's the best advice. You
Yeah.
have to really love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just follow your instinct.
Yeah.
Follow that feeling,
Yeah.
which is what you do every day, which is so magical. And for that, Oz, I thank you so much. You have done fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much.